Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We have a Bachelor Vanderpump crossover to discuss, that being Bachelor star and podcast host of Viall Files, Nick Viall, roasting and calling out James Kennedy. James Kennedy, of course, in the news with Vanderpump, although his seasons of Vanderpump are now over. He has made the news after being arrested for DV. We're going to get into that whole story. I've been covering this on my podcast, The Rush Hour. It's where I kind of put all the content that doesn't make it into specific YouTube videos. But I'm actually shocked that there isn't a greater conversation happening online with regards to how big of a story James Kennedy getting arrested should be. When Rachel Leviss was kind of outed as being the other woman in the Scandival situation, Tom Sandoval, Rachel Leviss became household names for all the wrong reasons, which again, cheating is bad, but nothing is worse than laying your hands on anybody, most importantly, your partner, someone who you should trust and they should trust. You have each other's best interest, and it's a boundary. Once crossed, you'll always be known and labeled as a wife beater or a domestic abuser. And in this case, again, for legal purposes, I will say this, innocent till proven guilty. He was arrested, but the county attorneys in Burbank, or however it works, they haven't charged him yet. So I don't know the full story. Allie, his partner, has moved out. So I think we can all agree that it's not looking good for him. But for legal purposes, we'll just say innocent till proven guilty. Although I think Allie rightfully should tell her story if she feels comfortable doing so. So you can scan that QR code if you want to hear all of my thoughts with all of the pop culture and entertainment news. The Rush Hour is twice a day. Let's get into this. I'm going to share with you all the different clips of Nick here putting James Kennedy in his place, and also, which is very important, calling out the silence from Lisa Vanderpump, calling out the silence from Bravo. Did they know him to be someone who's had a abusive past? Yes, he has been investigated before for having issues with his ex Kristen and with Rachel Leviss. So let's just go to a few different clips of what Nick and his podcast producers have to say here. There's a lot to digest.
Yeah, hell yeah, we are.
Yeah. So, anyways, it was very exciting, and then we came back, and then we went to Seth MacFarlane's Christmas party on Saturday, which was a lot of fun, legendary. Ran into Kristen Doty.
Ooh, love her. We did. Who, you know.
And Kristen Doty's the one who's accused James Kennedy of being abusive.
Talked to her about the obviously very unfortunate situation that is
James Kennedy.
Yeah.
The piece of shit that he is.
Yeah, really fuck that guy,
so
honestly.
Words. And
for those of you who don't know,
trying to talk over the swears here because we're not trying to trip the algorithm. But yeah, F that guy. Absolutely. F the guy. If all that has been reported, including the misdemeanor arrest, is true. Again, I'm using the big word if here so I don't get sued. I've been sued enough. I hit my quota for lawsuits this year. If that's all true, F this guy. And more people, should be talking about this and calling it out.
James Kennedy was arrested for domestic violence. The police reports are very disturbing.
So law enforcement sources tell TMZ, which love that for law enforcement. They're like, you know what? We don't give a fuck. We're going to tell TMZ what this shitbag did. Burbank, California police were dispatched to a home in the area Tuesday night after receiving a call about an argument between him and a woman. A witness saw Kennedy and the woman arguing, with the reality TV star allegedly grabbing her at one point, though we're told officers did not see any visible injuries on her. After investigating the situation, police say they determined it was a domestic incident, leading to James being arrested for misdemeanor domestic violence. Sources say Kennedy was released after posting a $20,000 bail.
Listen. I don't think the police officers take this lightly. I think they heard enough. Like the police report says, Allie says she was picked up and thrown to the ground. What scenario would that be appropriate? I don't, and again, because I look at this and go, geez, is there any sort of way there's a misunderstanding here? I don't see it. I personally don't see it. It's pretty clear cut to me. And I think the clearest aspect of this is that Allie moved out. She moved out. So there's different reports going on that he could lose his $1.6 million in earnings as he's dropped from fancy DJ gigs. Again, there's no evidence that I have so far that he has been dropped. That weekend, he still performed a Wisconsin show. So we're not really sure. But Daily Mail reports James Kennedy and Allie Luber are basically done following DV arrest. Again, she moved out. The dust is going to settle. The question is, does the dust settle in the direction of, because we've all been there. I'm not saying in abusive situations, but we've all been there with relationships that were toxic. And we swept that toxicity under the rug and said, okay, well, even though this is a terrible thing, that dopamine connection is a hell of a thing. Not dopamine, the oxytocin connection is a hell of a drug, right? So sometimes you go back to your abuser. He did break his silence with regards to how he's working on himself. I'm taking time to focus on my sobriety, blah, blah, blah. What Nick is going to say is you can't blame it on that. You can't blame it on that. So I'm going to share a few more clips. It gets damning as hell. Have a listen to this.
Of a reactive temper on TV.
Mhm.
We never want to jump to conclusions, but
I think it's sad because I think Kristen tried to talk about this, but I think everyone called her crazy. So no one believed her.
And when did, Sarah, you've been obviously watching Vanderpump and following the franchise
Years
for a
ago.
long time. How long is this, like James is, like,
I mean,
what, so ever since this arrest, paying attention to it, it seems like my understanding after the arrest, there's been like whispers of this type of behavior with James for a long time now. Can you elaborate on what on that?
yes. Obviously I want to say it's season 4 where we see Kristen and James get into a fight or break up, and they show the clip of her punching him. She wrote in her book after she was let go of Vanderpump Rules, stating that she was in a toxic fling of a relationship and that it did turn physical.
So she claims he pushed her into a bush. She punches him, and they only showed the part of her punching him. If that's true, I mean, gosh, they should have the footage of this. Shouldn't Bravo and the production company be audited if there is a known abuser that they let stay on the show? I mean, you would think that this could be part of the lawsuit that Rachel Leviss has with power attorney Brian Friedman. Now, if you guys know me, I call myself a power recapper because of a power attorney named Brian Friedman. He puts the P into power. This guy doesn't mess around. He's representing the Menendez brothers. He represented Cassie Randolph. He's represented Gabrielle Union when she, I think, sued America's Got Talent or whatever. He represents some heavy hitters out there. And right now, he's looking at, with Rachel Leviss, whether or not Bravo was complicit in some of the things that were going down, one of which might be keeping James on the show. And my guess is it won't go to trial. My guess is the more that comes out here, the stock of how much Bravo, the production company, is going to pay Rachel Leviss continues to grow. Throw on a couple zeros, because the last thing they want is for Discovery to find out that they have a known abuser that they've let stay on the show. Because if that's the case, it's going to be like a class action thing. They won't let that happen. So we continue on. Let's go to the 11-minute mark here as they continue to discuss how wrong this is.
Embarrassing, I think. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of pickup about our conversation that we had with Michael Rappaport. We saw James and Allie at Kathy's party. We talked to James and Allie. We talked to Allie a little bit more than James. And then, obviously, I told that anecdotal story about seeing James walk past me and yell and demand his friend hold his drink.
So this was the night of the arrest. Hours before the arrest, Nick sees James and Allie at Kathy Hilton's party. Kathy Hilton throws this big, great Christmas party. That's Paris Hilton's mom, I believe. It's a whole thing. Haven't gotten invited yet. That's totally fine. But what Nick says is that James was bossing his friend around and being an absolute diva, which again, it's like, all right, well, again, that doesn't mean just because you boss someone around doesn't mean you're an abuser. But when someone gets arrested, you go, earlier that night, yeah, he was acting pretty crazy. Was he on something? Not an excuse, but what was going on there that led to this? Was there a big, and again, none of what I'm saying is an excuse whatsoever. Was there a big issue? There were rumors that she cheated with Sandoval. That was, thrown out the window. But because of those rumors that existed, and again, we covered this on the Rush Hour podcast, Sandoval's girlfriend posted a statement saying, "Oh, I'm throwing him out, whatever." And then like an hour later, post a news statement. No, the rumors were wrong. So Sandoval is back with his girlfriend. They're back together. But what could have happened? Again, none of which would have led to it being appropriate for him to slam her down. Was there a cheating thing going on? Was the relationship on the way out? We don't have any of that information.
Whether it's because of the substance abuse or the drinking or not, clearly this is a type of behavior that has been ongoing and recurring. And I don't have any fucking patience for any guy who lays a hand on any woman, period, whatsoever. If you picked her up and threw her on the ground, you're a piece of shit, James. Fuck you.
And it wouldn't even be appropriate if it was a one-time thing, but the fact that there is a paper trail of physicality, who the fuck does this guy think he is? And to think that he's entitled to have jobs where he's performing in that culture that lead with all the toxicity, it's like, nah, bro. I mean, look, privately, companies can continue to hire him, but I just wouldn't be surprised if women don't put the kibosh on him performing at venues that they, frequent.
Amen.
I hope he never works again. I hope his DJ career.
I believe he lost his residency in Vegas.
Yes,
fuck him.
Let's go.
I don't know
Allie
that.
did post a Instagram story. She posted and said, "Thank you to everyone who has reached out with love and support and for checking in on me. I'm okay and taking the time I need right now. I deeply appreciate all the kindness and respect for my privacy during this time."
And by the way, that statement led everyone to believe, because at first she was like, whatever. She did that, sadly, that thing people do where they try to protect the person. A lot of times if there is violence or manipulation or control, financial control, whatever it is, there's usually a codependent relationship there. There is somebody willing to put up with the other person's BS, abusive tendencies, because that's what a codependent does. They put the other person's needs ahead of their own. A counter-dependent person, the first sign of this would be like, bye, no thanks, I'm out of here. But again, it doesn't mean a codependent person's a bad person here. It just means they might extend the benefit of the doubt past a reasonable level. And when it reaches its critical point like this, friends get involved, family get involved, and they say, Allie, you're worth more than this. We don't need this. And I actually want to give props to the comments I read from Vanderpump Rules Nation. Their audience said, hey, Allie, Allie's a professional astrologer. Basically, they were saying, we'll support you. We'll continue to support you. You don't have to be with this guy. Because a lot of times people think if the other person's the breadwinner, clearly James is making a lot of money. He bought a home in Burbank, not a cheap place to live, although not a great home. It's under the flight path. They were roasting him. That was the funniest part of the season is they were all roasting him because you could hear the airplanes overhead and you could just tell it was getting to him. But what's interesting is as we watched the last season, as sort of toxic as Tom Sandoval is, point blank cheated on his girlfriend, did all this. The fight that was breaking out between Tom Sandoval and James Kennedy calling him a worm. It's like, look, I mean, I'm not here to officiate which crimes are worse, cheating versus DV, but one of them will get you arrested. And the other one, I think in most municipalities, you don't get arrested for cheating. It's just scummy, bad morals. It's like obviously says more about you than your partner, blah, 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 blah. And of course, domestic violence says a lot more about him than it does his partner. And it's something that I think would be a strong statement for reality TV to say, nah, bro, unless you got a damn good excuse. And unless Allie, and I think at this point, he can say everything he wants. Unless Allie, who would be the only one in that room with him, can say, look, I lunged at him. He, whatever. Unless there's that type of story, it's bad. And I'm not even saying it's right for him to respond in any physical way. I'm just saying, unless she comes out and says, no, they got it all wrong. I lied or whatever. I don't think that's the case. If I had to put my money on it, it sounds like the report's true. She moved out. Will she be protecting him and not sharing the full story so she can move on? Possibly. My hope is when the connection and the love goes away, that she'll just tell her truth. And I think that'll be the best thing forward for other women to know the truth. And also, it would be the best thing for him because if she protects him, that might prevent him from hitting rock bottom. And if these allegations are true, he very well should hit rock bottom. So a broken clock's right twice a day, and today Nick's on the right side of this story. Absolutely. And will he work again? Yes, I think so. I don't think, but I'll tell you what, a hell of a financial hit. But like, will there be gigs? There'll always be, I think there'll always be a gig available to a D-list reality star. But that's not because I'm going to be supporting him. That's for sure. So the way this is working, for those still listening, I'll explain it to you. Starting January 1st, I'm moving my audio-only podcast to YouTube. What that means is I'll have 2 25-minute long episodes every day that covers everything I want you guys to know. For your rush hour ride to work at 8 a.m. every day, I'm going to have stories like what's going on with the UFOs in New Jersey, what's up with reality TV, a dabbling of politics that you need to know, major stories with Taylor Swift and Travis, like that type of stuff. And also, I'll include Bachelor content. I won't have 20-minute long deep dives of Bachelor content. It'll be Spark Notes, everything you need to know. When there's a story like this, where we can play longer, more nuanced conversations regarding Vanderpump, Bachelor, and the cross intersection of these convos, I'll have separate YouTube videos. I've had people say, oh no, Dave, I don't want the longer stuff, or no, I don't want the shorter stuff. You're getting all of it. Okay? You're going to get the full Rush Hour podcast twice a day. That's an hour of content. And also, you're going to get videos that dive deeper into the topics we're discussing when they are there. This helps us move out of the very narrow niche of Bachelor so that barrel scraping season involves conversations about other interesting topics like aliens. All right, folks, that's it from me. And again, that starts January 1st. But as of today, you can listen to the audio-only version of that podcast by scanning that QR code or just searching The Rush Hour with Dave Neal. All right, we'll be back with The Rush Hour with Dave Neal coming up next.